Hi, Washington Township. This is Catherine Carey. I'm the Director of Assessment, Data Technology, Registration, and School Community Outreach. I'm here with Mr. Vollendorf again for our fourth episode of 20 for 20. Today, we're going to jump right into the questions because these questions have come up a lot, and I think the answers are going to be very helpful for you. So, Mr. Vollendorf, are you ready?
I am. Thank you, Kath.
Sure. First question is, why was the decision made to have all students start the year remotely, and does it have to do with HVAC filters?
The answer is no. It does not have to do with HVAC filters. First of all, I think it's important for our viewing audience to know the guidelines sent by the Department of Education with regards to ventilation in our buildings is really pretty simplistic. It is that the HVAC system be in good working order, have a fresh air component, and that the filtration system is operating at or above manufacturing specifications. All of our HVAC units provide that. They provide a fresh air component, and we currently have installed the manufacturer recommended filtration. Now, some of our HVAC, about 50% of it, has the ability to take up to a MERV 13 filter. So that's a more dense filter. Not all the HVAC systems can handle it. During the month of July and August, we've been working ongoing with our engineering firm, Remington and Vernick, and they've done an audit of our equipment. They made recommendations back in July, and as a part of those recommendations, we wanted to know from them specifically what every single filter or what every single HVAC unit in our district could handle. At that point, they assumed that about 20 to 25% of our HVAC units could handle up to a MERV 13 filter. Now that the audit's complete, we got our final report from them on August 28th. It's actually about 52% of the HVAC units in our school can handle a MERV 13 filter. So filters have been ordered, more filters are being ordered, and when those filters come in, we'll be installing them. But as far as the standards set forth by the DOE, every single one of those HVAC units are currently equipped with MERV 8. They are delivering fresh air components to every single one of those instructional spaces, and they are working and operating per manufacturing specifications. So we would be taking them beyond the manufacturing specifications where we were able to install MERV 13 filters. The reason I delayed the start of school is because we had too many units still in need of repair, not because of filtration, because they're mechanical and there were parts that needed to be ordered, things that needed to come in. We had units not working. So I didn't have enough instructional spaces, or what I should say is I couldn't be assured that I had enough instructional spaces to be able to accommodate the children on their return on the 8th. However, I certainly have enough space to accommodate the staff, which is why I'm able to bring the staff back at this point in time and have them working in our building safely in advance of the children returning on the 21st. Our plan is that the HVAC will be up and running at a rate that would allow me enough instructional space to handle the return of our children at that point in time. It's important that we had, backup space in all of our buildings, because even though we may open and every single classroom that our children are occupying is running, things can break down. And if they break down, what do we do? So ideally, you're going to want to have additional space in each building where you're able to move a classroom to while the HVAC system in that particular classroom goes under repair. So if you're overwhelmed and you have too many things breaking down and not enough instructional space to put the children in, the kids in, you might be in a situation where you have to actually close a building down and go on remote for that specific building until such times as the repairs were made. So, in constantly staying on top of the situation, I was not able to be convinced that we were going to have enough HVAC up and running to safely open schools on the 8th. When I say safely, I want to clarify that again. Safely meaning that I could provide the requirements set forth by the DOE with a fresh air component being delivered. I could have also just opened classroom windows, and that really satisfies the guidelines, even where HVAC is not working. But I recognize how hot our buildings can get, and I don't think that that's always the best solution for our kids as well. So I felt that and giving us an additional 2 weeks to be able to attend to these situations, make sure that they were all taken care of, was the optimal thing to do. And that is what it is that we've done. And we're working feverishly to make sure that our units are up and running in time for the kids' return.
Is there a possibility that remote instruction being delivered at the beginning of the year could be extended? And what would cause a delay for the in-person instruction?
There are so many variables that could force the district into pivoting to an all remote situation. It could happen building by building, or for the district as a whole. The more likely scenarios are building to building, and they would be based on whether or not there were any positive COVID test coming up in a particular school. There's specific guidance from the CDC and from the Department of Health on what steps we would take based on various scenarios that would occur in a given school year as it relates to the testing. Some of those steps include a pivot to remote instruction for as many as 14 days, calendar days, so about 10 school days, and or not having to close down school, but in fact maybe closing down a specific classroom within a school and putting those students in that environment, either in another location and or on remote instruction, depending. So in our reopening plan guidance and on our website, there is specific flow charts. The most recent guidance came out on August 12th. That document can be found on our website, and it details specifically the various scenarios that could lead to a situation where a school building, a classroom would have to be quarantined and students would be placed on remote instruction. Moving through the calendar as well, there are some dates during the course of the year that if moving forward we're going well, there are some 3-day weeks. There's 3 of them to be exact during the course of the year. The first one being election week. And recently the governor came out and said that our buildings have to basically be open to the election on November 3rd or 4th, whatever that Tuesday is. So that week we'll be doing all remote instruction for our kids those 3 days, same the week of Thanksgiving and same the 3 days leading up to winter break. Other than that, we'll be offering 4 days of instruction. Even if we're off on a Monday or Friday, we would just do away with the all remote Wednesdays in a 4-day week. But in a typical 5-day week, we'll stick to the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday with an all remote Wednesday.
Okay. So considering what you said about why we delayed the beginning of the school year, what do you think the likelihood is that we would return on September 21st as we are intending?
Right now, that's our goal. We are doing everything we can to come through and take our buses out and pick our kids up and bring them to school on Monday the 21st. That is the absolute goal at this point, and I'm feeling pretty confident. The reports that I'm getting, the things that needed to be getting done are getting done, and if we continue to move at this rate that we're at right now, I don't think that we'll have any problems.
Now, this question I think you've already answered, but let me ask it again just in case you'd like to elaborate. If the district is not prepared to bring students in for instruction during the first 2 weeks of school, why is it safe to bring in teachers and staff?
Again, I think I did answer it earlier, but I'm happy to answer it again. It's not unsafe to bring anybody back at this particular point in time. What I don't have is a guarantee of enough instructional space for the students because I have some HVAC units in disrepair that need to be corrected first. But in terms of bringing the staff back, I have more than ample space to bring staff back and provide them places to work within our buildings that HVAC is working. They are being delivered their fresh air component, and they're all in good working order. So it's just a matter of really space at this particular point in time within our buildings, that there's ample space for staff, just not ample space yet for students, which, as I said before, we plan on having corrected by the 21st.
Great. Now, during the first 2 weeks of school where students are remote, but staff and teachers will be working from the buildings, will staff be working from their buildings on Wednesdays?
No, not at this time. The main reason that staff has to be working from the buildings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday is because they're basically providing a live instructional component during the regular time that students would be meeting on those days. So students will be receiving a schedule telling them how to log in through Schoology, where they'll be meeting directly with their teacher by period, or at the elementary level by classroom. And they'll actually be, doing guided live instruction with those teachers. There'll be a variety of activities that will be going on, but they'll have that opportunity in large and small groups to actually be working directly with their teacher, which was not a component of the remote instruction before. And so to that end, I think it's critical that our staff's in our buildings because of a variety of reasons. One, they have much more access to resources that they have there. Their supervisors, their colleagues, their building administrators, things that they may need, materials in their classroom that they don't have to pack up and bring home. They're all there. The aids now, where are necessary, particularly in our special education programming, are also now available in those locations to provide the assistance and the guidance and the practice that some of our special education students need as part of their support network. And it also provides, quite frankly, a more an undistracted place where the focus becomes the education of our children. I think that that's critical as well. I mean, life gets in the way, and if while in the home things happen, and they can prove sometimes to be a bit distracting. I think our staff did a wonderful job, but I think that we learned a lot in the remote environment last time around, and I think that this will be a major step in the right direction in improving what it is that we're providing.
So what will instruction look like the first 2 weeks of school now that all students are remote?
Well, I know these are all new terms that all of us have been wrapping our minds around. You can constantly hear synchronous and asynchronous. Simply what that means is synchronous is live, person-to-person instruction, where asynchronous is a variety of things. So it can be a recording, it could be exercises, guided practice, things of that nature. It just doesn't have a live component where a teacher and or aide is interacting with the children live at that moment. So the remote instruction at this point in time will have a combination of the two, where primarily during the course of the morning, teachers will be engaged live with students throughout the day, assisting them in their practice, and then on top of that, be providing asynchronous exercises, recordings, and other supports that students will be able to work on. Now, the advantage in the all remote environment that regardless of what cohort you're in, or whether you're a remote only student or a cohort A or cohort B, now students, all of them are going to have that opportunity to meet with their teachers, in some cases 4 days a week at the elementary level, at the secondary level, 2 days a week. And then that'll be supported then by a remote day on Wednesday, which will also provide some synchronous time, but more in the way of office hours, where teachers would make themselves available to their students who want to come on live with their teacher. They have questions, they looking for some additional information from their teachers, supports of the like, and that's the same with the other support systems that we'll have in place as well for our guidance counselors, our SAC counselors, our special areas where we're providing supports for our students, whether it be speech therapy and the like. There'll be those days where those opportunities and those pieces of their educational programming are provided.
What are the cleaning protocols for the first 2 weeks of school while students are remote? Will they remain as planned as written in the restart and recovery plan?
Yeah, they'll remain the same. Custodians will be basically doing all that they'll be doing. Obviously, when the students aren't in the building, there may be some areas that don't need specific attention, like, for example, a student lavatory. If that's not being used by the staff, then that may not be needing specific attention on that day and would get its attention that evening or on Wednesdays. But the areas that would be commonly used by our staff, they would be cleaned at the same rate with the same protocols that are currently in place, whether our students are in the facility or not.
And our staff wants to know, what are the options for staff who have medical documentation stating that they should not return to work? Will they be able to work remotely, or must they take a leave of absence? And what are the options for staff who do not have medical documentation?
Well, they're all on a case-by-case basis. Our HR department is working very tirelessly with those staff members who have reached out. It is critical that any staff member that is looking down this road, that they're in touch with Sharon Reif and Janine Wechter. who would be able to provide them with direction. The forms are online. I know that emails have been sent as well, directing teachers with this regard. In a district as large as ours, it's really critically important that these issues are handled consistently across the board. But there is obviously always some flexibility because there's so many variables that are involved, what level the teacher may be teaching, and our ability to be able to provide a remote instruction model for a particular teacher can vary wildly from one level to the other. So I think that the best answer I can give is they need to work very closely with our HR department, and we'll go from there.
Will Kids Choice be permitted to function from our school buildings during the first 2 weeks of school? And if so, is it safe?
It is, again, for all the reasons we stated. And in those locations where Kids Choice will be housed, the HVAC units will be working. If they're not, obviously, they wouldn't be able to be in those locations, but their plan is to open. And I know that they're communicating that out to those folks that are utilizing their services.
And what will remote instruction look like for students who are at Kids Choice?
The same anywhere. I know the Kids Choice is breaking their students into cohorts of no more than 10 or 12 students. We're actually looking forward to getting a list from them. We're going to be providing them with a desk and other pieces of furniture that would allow students to be able to engage in remote instruction on those days that they would be in Kids Choice and not in the classroom.
Some of our parents were concerned that last spring, some students saw their teachers a lot and some students didn't see their teachers at all in a live manner. So some parents want to know that, is it mandatory for staff to be meeting live with students?
It is, and that's the expectation, and all of our staff will be having, if we're in the hybrid model, staff will be meeting with remote students at least once per week. While we're in this remote model for the next 2 weeks, they can expect to, as I said earlier, have some connectivity with their teachers at the elementary level, 4 to 5 days a week, and at the secondary level, 2 to 3 days per week.
One parent notes, I heard that iPads for our elementary students are not available until October. Does this mean my child will not have a device until iPads become available?
No, we are providing everybody with a device. It may not be an iPad, it may be some other device that will help get our students by, but we have enough personal devices to be able to give one to every single student. And when the iPads arrive, then obviously we'll be swapping them out for the iPad.
Thank you. My child has special needs that require special programming. Would the district allow for children in these specific programs to attend school the first 2 weeks while other students are remote?
I think this has been one of the most challenging things that we've had to face. We recognize the level of support that our special needs population, must have, particularly in our self-contained settings, and how little remote can actually provide for those children. So our special ed department is looking at a variety of options right now, and we're hoping to come out with a plan that would see some significant changes in what it is that we're doing remotely and or live, even in advance of the 21st. So hopefully by the end of this week, some information will be coming out to our parents.
Great, thank you. Is there any discussion of the future possibility to install plexiglas between desks so students can go to school 4 days a week, at least for elementary education?
We are not exploring that as an option at this point in time. In a district as large as ours, that would be one remedy for having the kids while in the classroom, but there are still all the other things the kids need to do in getting to school and moving from a class to another class that I think fairly complicates the issue. I mean, the balance that we're trying to provide here is a balance whereby we can get kids back in the classroom, provide them with, some elements of live instruction, support them in any way that we can. We understand the research and the need for the emotional and social development of our children, and how critical this environment is for that development. So we're doing what we can to, get our kids back into the buildings but doing so as safely as possible. And we believe that the hybrid model that we've created, where we socially distance our kids, we wear our face mask, And we've limited our population in such a way that we can do both things and do both things well.
When will parents receive busing information?
It's a good question. I think that they would probably likely receive at some point in time this week. I don't know what specific day, but obviously they're going to be getting that information soon. It may be delayed a little bit because the buses are now not coming until the 21st. But I would say in short time. Typically, if we were starting school, they would have gotten it this week or late last week.
My son will be entering kindergarten this year. Will there be any meet and greets? Things like taking the bus will be new, so this is something that I think would be helpful for my son making the transition into the township schools.
Well, yeah, the virtual meet and greets with all the elementary teachers, basically all the teachers, I think will probably be what's happening in the early going of the virtual connection, live connection with our staff. Going over protocols in the building and for our young students like our kindergartners riding the bus, I would fully expect that they're the kinds of things that our teachers would be, introducing and discussing with our students at that time.
Thank you. And I do know that we do have some videos in production actually for some of these transitions, including riding the bus, how to put on a mask, where's the hand sanitizer. So we're working on those and we're going to release them soon. All right.
Excellent.
And the last question, Mr. Wallendorf, is why are there no final exams?
Final exams, obviously, it's been a debate for some time, even before this pandemic hit, as it relates to the need for final exams. We are moving the district in a more standards-based approach as it regards to our academics in our classrooms and what it is that we're providing feedback for our students in terms of their performance. And final exams really don't really quite fit into that philosophy and the direction we're going in. And now specifically in this environment where you're doing most of our students are going to be in a hybrid model, others on remote. Things can change from one day to the next. Trying to focus someone's attention on the high level importance of a specific final exam, considering how the educational vehicle is being delivered throughout the course of the year, doesn't really seem very fair to our kids. So I think going to a specific standard-based approach does provide far more consistency and ability for us to gauge their academic performance and what it is that they should get in return for that performance. It really should be more of a reflection of their work as a student throughout the course of this process, and so much shouldn't be hinged on a particular test at the end of the year.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Bollendorf, for your time today. I know we have a lot of things going on. We welcomed our new teachers today. So everything's really heating up, which is awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our staff and community as your closing remarks?
I would just, want to echo, and these are things that folks who have paid attention to the board meetings have heard. I just think it's so critically important that we do all that we can do to reopening our buildings. I think that our kids need our teachers. I think our teachers need our kids. I think it's a critical component of who we are as Americans, who we are as a society, and it's critical that we do all we can to make that happen and keep it going. It's going to be challenging for sure, and things may occur across the way, and they'll be left with some people being able to say, "I told you so," and I get that. But as an educator, this is a two-sided issue for me, and sometimes folks don't want to look at both sides. We can argue the risks that are involved from a health and safety standpoint in opening our buildings, and that by itself is daunting and scary in and of itself. But in the midst of this, we've learned as a society to function. People are going back to work all over this country, and we're learning about the precautions that we know that we individually responsibly can take to limit our exposure and to give us our best chance of being able to continue living life in the most normal way and still be able to, survive the pandemic. It's easy to state things like, if one person dies, nobody wants that on their head. I certainly don't want that on my head. But likewise, I also see the depression and the issues that our kids face in our world, and not having school in their life and their ability to be around, well-intended adults that are doing good things for them and inspiring and motivating them and supporting them in real important ways is also a risk. We learn all the time and study all the time all the various things that we're looking for with our students to keep them safe mentally from harming themselves. That we recognize that school is such an integral component to that emotional well-being of all of our students. And so to take that away in favor of the other is, to me, a difficult situation. And so I think that really we're at a place right now where we really need to try to figure out how we continue to live our lives in this pandemic and how we continue to support our kids in the ways that we know that they need. I think that that's as equally important. And I feel very confident. I have a wife that works in healthcare. She gets up, she goes to work every single day. And she takes the precautions that are necessary. Kathy, you're sitting in the boardroom right now. You're wearing your mask. And that's really the most important things. The most important things is social distancing, wearing our mask, washing our hands. They're the things that matter, and taking the symptom checker very seriously. If our parents are working with us, and every single morning they're making sure that their children are healthy and good to go to school before they send them by going through that checker and keeping them home when they're not, and likewise, our staff is doing the same, and we're doing the same and checking kids when they arrive, and we are collectively doing those things. Those four components, those four things are absolutely the main things in maintaining safety in our buildings as we try to navigate these waters and get back to living our lives. And I think that that's an important thing to do. I think that it's a hallmark of who we are as Americans. It's certainly a hallmark of who we are as educators. And all the tragedies and things that have been going on in education with school shootings and the like, teachers get up every single day, they get dressed and they come to work, and their expectations are high to do good things. But we're prepared. That's why we've installed vestibules and security measures and done all the things that we've done, because you try to, minimize the risk and put precautions in place. And that's what we're doing here. We have this amongst us, and we're putting the things in place that we know we need to put in place to be able to return our kids to school in a safe way and minimize those risks that are involved in doing so. And I think it's worth it. I think it's really worth it. It's important to our kids, and I truly believe it's the right thing to do.